This is a review on a Marlowe custom balisong. I got this knife from a fellow member at Jerzeedevil, SKCHENG, so I want to thank him for loaning me this very exclusive custom balisong. For those of you who are maybe new to custom knives or new to custom balisongs, Marlowe is an extremely renowned knife maker. He's been around for a while. He has such a reputation that recently he was actually hired by Benchmade to design the Benchmade 53, so that gives you an idea of what kind of reputation he has. His work has a very, very high reputation for quality and design, and this knife is no exception. Right off the bat, when I got it, you could just immediately tell that it was a knife that was just designed from the tip to the latch with perfection. Every single detail was accounted for, nothing was looked over. It really is an exquisite piece of work, kind of like artwork. So what I'll do is I'll start from the latch up, and we'll talk about the knife like that. He went with a standard T-style latch with a pin, and as you can see, it's perfectly symmetrical. And I like how he beveled off the ends of the pin here. It's just another sign of attention to detail. The latch holds closed well enough to keep the knife closed. It's a little bit looser than when it's latched open. As you can see, if a little pressure, it opens up like that. And when it's open, though, it snaps in pretty well. It is pinned in, you can't reverse it, as you can see. The spacers, I'm not sure what the material is on the spacers. They don't feel like steel, they feel kind of light, so it might be titanium, might be aluminum, I'm not really sure. They are held in with 2 screws on each side. I like how he kind of did this kind of offset here. It's just another little detail that makes the knife look very nice. I think the spacers probably could have been heavier, but again, I don't think this knife was designed with the intent to perform and flip and do tricks. It's a custom, so I don't really, that's probably why he went with whatever material he decided to go with. The handles are actually all G10. I was kind of surprised. This is a knife that I believe it goes for about $900, which is a lot of money for a balisong. So I was a little surprised to see that it was all G10. You wouldn't think something that's all G10 would cost that much, but if you look closely, there was a lot of attention to detail. It's got kind of this bamboo kind of style to it. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it, but it's hard to catch on camera. But it's got this texture and this shaping where it kind of goes, in and out like this. It reminds me of like bamboo, right? And it's just perfect, right? The shape and the detail is just immaculate. The way that he got this G10 to look is really something else. I really haven't seen anything like it. And it is sturdy enough, although it doesn't have any type of liners. It's pretty strong. Up to the pivots, Marlowe went with IKBS. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's the Icoma core bearing system. As you can see, it's stamped here. Basically what it is it's really tiny micro ball bearings sandwiched between washers. So basically the blade is gliding along ball bearings when the handle moves. And what that allows is an extremely smooth pivoting balisong. The best way I can explain what it feels like is if you just lubricated your balisong, right, for the first maybe 5 minutes or so, that balisong is extremely slick, right, and then eventually the lube kind of wears away and it gets back to its normal shape. Well, IKBS pretty much feels like a freshly lubed pivot, right, at all times. It never loses that slickness. It's always like that. The other benefit of IKBS is it allows the washers to get in very close and keep its tolerance very tight. You can tighten down those pivots very tightly and it's still going to glide very slick, and if you look, that is the play. Pretty much nothing. It's non-existent. It's amazing. It's pretty much the tightest balisong that I've handled. So that's nice, it keeps the play away at all times. As far as flipping though, IKBS tends to be a little bit too slick for my taste. And what I mean by that is when you flip a balisong, when you go for a closed rotation, and what I mean by a closed rotation is when the knife is like this for a chaplain or a zero gravity, or if you're going around for a thumb rollover, right? The momentum of the knife, right, needs to kind of keep around your fingers, especially when you're going for multiple rotations. Now, if you have a pivot system that's really slick, this handle tends to want to just open up, right? And believe it or not, you want a tiny bit of resistance in your pivots in order for it to maintain its form around your finger for rollovers. With IKBS, or if you just lubricated your balisong, you'll find that it has a tendency to fly off, especially when you're doing vertical chaplains and things of that nature. The knife just kind of wants to fly. My personal preference is a bushing system. Does IKBS make the knife open any faster or slicker? Not in my opinion. I think it can open just as fast as, or a knife without IKBS can open just as fast. I really think it's more of a novelty, if you want to call it that. It does have its benefits, but I don't think it's conducive to a good flipper. But that's just my opinion. He went with a dual tank pin system. I really like how he beveled off the edges for the tank pins to kind of come to a point. Again, it's just amazing attention to detail. And onto the blade. The blade is probably my favorite part of this knife. I mean, it's just immaculate. Look at that grind. He went with a really deep hollow grind. It's just razor sharp. Amazing work, and you see this swedge that he worked in here that comes to this extremely sharp point. Marlowe is known for his excellent grind work. It's probably the sharpest knife I've ever handled, even beyond the Tachyon and the Bali Ballistic. When I was flipping it, I could actually feel it just kind of grabbing into my skin ever so lightly. If I came just a little bit too close to that blade, it would just grip very, very lightly against my skin. That's how sharp it was. And the tiniest little mistakes, as you can see, I just got done flipping this thing. It'll slice you up. It'll really slice you up. It played into my psyche a little bit when I was flipping it. Now, as far as how it flips, it's not a bad flipper, actually. It performs pretty decently. But the thing is, it is all G10 handles, so that tends to make the balance of the weight in this particular balisong more centered. Whereas I feel for a good flipper, it should be more biased towards the end. That's because, when you're doing rotations, when you're doing rollovers, the knife pivots around your finger and you need the weight in the back to help it keep its momentum going around your finger. This doesn't have any steel liners or titanium liners. This is pretty much all the weight that it's going to have at the end. So when I was flipping it, I found that it's you kind of have to work a little bit further from the pivots in order to make sure the knife has enough momentum to work its way around your fingers. And I actually prefer working closer to the pivots. That's why I like my weight to the back. If you have to, if the knife is light and it doesn't have enough weight towards the end, what ends up happening is it forces the flipper to have to, start, say like I start a Y2K. I can't start here because kind of hard to explain. It's easier to feel, but if I start here, the knife just doesn't seem to have enough momentum to get around. It kind of stalls right about here. So what I found is for light knives, you actually have to start up here, right? Because it changes its pivot point a little bit, and it actually helps the knife go around a little bit easier. If you start further away from the pivots, it gains a little bit more speed. But the problem with that is if you're further from the pivots, you tend to lose a little bit of control, right? Because now you got to catch things at a different point. You're not. If I go for like a zero gravity from like a rollover, but I'm out here, the knife is I just have a little less control. But again, this is a custom knife, so I don't really think it was designed for hardcore flipping. I'm just commenting on it because I know a lot of flippers kind of want to know what a custom like this, how it would perform. I could probably, in time, figure out how to do just about everything I could with a 42 or a 51 with this knife, but it would take a bit more effort and a lot of getting used to. The other thing is, again, this is a custom. It's close to $1,000, right? So that plays into your psyche a bit. Most people buy customs to keep them pristine. Maybe they want to sell them later. Maybe they're hoping it'll go up in value. Maybe they want to trade it in for other fine pieces later. And in order to maintain a custom's value, you got to keep that knife perfect. You can't beat up on a custom like you do a 42 or a 51. And that kind of plays into your psyche, right? Because say this is, if this is a $900 knife, and then you go and you flip it and you ding the G10 or you chip the edge here, well, now it's a $700 knife, right? So one little drop and you're out a couple $100, right? Because custom buyers, they don't want to buy something that's beat up. They want to buy something that's maintained well and pristine, right? Sometimes they don't even want the knife to be flipped. So you really put that in perspective. Let's say I'm flipping this and I drop it and I ding it. Well, basically that costs me the cost of buying one of these, right? Because this is what, like $180. So now I gotta adjust my price if I ever decide to sell it down $100, $200. That weighs into your mind, It definitely weighed into my mind when I was flipping this because it's not my knife, right? So I had to really baby it. If you're flipping it, even if it was my knife, every time you drop it, you're going to be checking it. That's really just not that's not the mindset you want to be in when you're flipping. You want something that's going to be like the 51 or 42 that you can just kind of let it fall and take a hit here and there, and it really doesn't matter. So that's just my opinion on that. But overall, I really think it's just an amazing piece of work, and being that I'm not the type that has the kind of money, and also I'm just not the type that would probably end up buying a custom. It was really cool of SKCHENG to let me use this because this was a great opportunity to actually handle a knife of this caliber, and for you guys to kind of learn a little bit more about it and experience it. So I wanted to thank him for that, and hope you guys enjoyed the review. If you have any questions, leave comments, and thanks for watching.